What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin.
And we have yet another album review for you, and another one that I saw coming up, and I'm like, hey, I've listened to that band before, which generally is enough for me to want to go over a band. So we're going over the latest offering from Thorn, Nebulous Womb of Eternity. This also comes out on the 8th of August on Transcending Obscurity Records. This band formed in 2020 COVID AD in Phoenix, Arizona. This is their fourth full-length album. I got into this band with their first album, Crawling Worship, which I thought was kind of interesting. It was advertised as deathdoom, and I don't know if it really was, and we're going to elaborate on that probably a little bit more in this review. Admittedly, their second album, Yawning Depths, was, kind of okay. It was just riffy and chuggy, and I kind of missed their last one, Evergloom, entirely, which was their Transcending Obscurity debut. And for those who don't know, this is one man, deathdoom. Now, that's what it says on the archives, and the archives have been wrong before. Now, the gentleman in question, the guy that helms this project, one Brennan Westermeyer, formerly of Fluids, this is the project that I believe he just chose to leave Fluids to pursue, and, this is his, own thing. And, it's fucking heavier than hell.
I'd never heard of the band before, but I have heard of Fluids, and that's kind of what drew me here. Plus, I saw it was on Transcending Obscurity, and that drew me in even further. So I thought, why the hell not? All right, so the archive states that this is Death Doom, so you would think that you're getting into Death Doom. It's not. There is one part of this record that is, but the majority, in fact, the whole main substance of this album, I would not call Death Doom. It's definitely death metal.
Definitely death metal.
But it is not Death Doom.
Yeah, this, is more akin to, Fluids, honestly. It's very close to Fluids, which I wouldn't call Death Doom either. It's pummeling, it's heavy, blunt force trauma, chuggy riffs, a big, beefy drum machine. This has more in common with, I would say bands like Fulci, maybe even Gatecreeper, especially their earlier stuff.
Yeah.
Doom is not necessarily found very often on here. You got a couple of moments on songs like Entombed in Chrysalis and the title track, which is the most doom-laden, ominous, dark, foreboding song on the entire album. But for the most part, this is a lot of just riff and fucking chug.
Caveman riff and fucking chug. This is huge ooga booga vibes. I would call it pretty much meat and potatoes as far as most of the riffs are concerned. It's definitely heavy. There's no denying that whatsoever.
That's the charm of meat potatoes, ooga booga death metal.
Yeah.
Listen, if anything, it's going to be the heaviest thing you've heard maybe today. Or if you're like us, maybe the second or third heaviest thing you've heard today because, we've been listening to music all day.
That's fair.
But, it comes in pretty thunderous. The opening track, Ooze Maelstrom, which is quite a visual right there. I think of a pus-filled tornado. What do you think about that? You better keep your mouth closed.
I think I'm actually going to go inside instead of going out and videotaping.
But, it comes in chuggy. It's mean. The production on here is fucking loud. It is just heavier than hell. The guitars in particular are just crispy as hell. You have cavernous vocals. This was mixed and mastered by Dan Bonifiglio. I might have got your last name right, maybe. I know him from his work in Gut Void, Fumes, and Intestinal Hex. Does a solid job in those bands. And in terms of this mix, this thing is just gasoline soaked. It is intended to be just fucking pummeling. And it matches the energy in here because the riff work, I would almost say is just percussive. It is just chugathon after chugathon. Breaks up a little bit with sinister tremolos and some almost kind of hardcore infused breakdowns every now and then.
Not a whole lot by way of melody. It's more in the atmosphere. Entombed in Chrysalis, Quarter Sawn Remains, Zombifying Mold, things like that. They're kind of leads, I guess. I don't even know if they're full-blown leads. Mostly it's just some haunting melody that just appears in random parts.
Yeah, it's, a very ghostly guitar tone for the leads. And, they kind of come in and, lightly noodle about, but it is more about the atmosphere. There's one lead on here that is decidedly different, but that was Dan's lead, and that's on Zombifying Mold, which is notably a little bit more intricate, and even the guitar tone's a lot different. But picking out different moments on here, honestly, was a bit of a challenge because pretty much from Ooze Maelstrom all the way to, I would say, like the last track, it's kind of a lot of rinse and repeat. Like these are, just very, find the heaviest riff you can, chug on it, maybe do, like a quick transition to a breakdown, occasionally get some blasts, and kind of just mix that up. Entombed and Chrysalis, I will say, does start off a little bit more gloomy. Like it has touches of doom to it. It's one of the few songs that actually do.
Well, it's because it's got a mid-tempo start. Most of these songs don't start particularly fast, but this one, in this case, locks into groove immediately and remains slower throughout a majority of the song. I still don't know if I would call it doom, per se, but it's definitely slower.
Well, it changes up, like, the riff structure a little bit. Like, you get into, like, more, like, brutal death chromatic chugs and, like, heavy syncopated grooves. My issue was, like, I was kind of expecting, like, at least a bit of a balance, because at least on, the earlier albums, I would say, they're definitely brutal, but there's also elements of doom. But there's really not a lot of those moments on here, because, first off, the guitar tone and the guitar work itself, it leans more heavily on just straight up death metal. You get a lot of heavy syncopated chugs. There's not a lot of, like, big open droning riffs or, like atmosphere on top of them to make it sound more gloomy. Like, this doesn't feel oppressive in the sense that, like, you're being, like, squeezed by it. Like, all the joy is leaving your body and, you're about to fucking spiral into a pit of depression. Oddly enough, that's kind of what I want out of Death Doom. That says a lot about me. But most of this is just, like, really aggressive, really just chunky. And, like, this feels more like it's about, like, inspiring mosh pits, rather than, like, just, like, a gloomy head nodding. And I'll also say I think these songs, for what they are, do feel a tad drawn out. Like Ooze Maelstrom, it comes in, again, thunderous. It's fun. It's catchy. It reminded me of Fulci. I like Fulci. But there were points on it where I feel like they kind of just hammered on one thing a little too long and they weren't adding to it. The end of the song dry humps a particular riff, and it's not a bad riff, but it hangs out too long and they didn't really add anything to it. Like, you didn't even get one of their creepy lead melodies.
Yeah.
They didn't harmonize it. They didn't change the syncopation a little bit. It just hung out and, it just wouldn't leave.
It sticks around for probably, 10 measures or so, and you just kind of wonder when it's going to end. And, like, it's cool to see that a riff is dry humped a little bit, because I noticed that there are a bunch of riff changes in a lot of songs. And again, they don't really go anywhere, but, like, it was cool to see them stick with one riff, but it's there for a long time. And, like, towards, like, the fifth measure or so, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, the end of a party where you're like, listen, I'm trying to go to bed. You need to leave. But of course, they start talking about their ex and get all weepy, like, oh, fuck me. We're going through this again. But the riff change thing that he brought up is really prevalent around the middle of the album, to the point where, again, these songs feel like interchangeable. And interchangeable, like, down to sections of the songs where you could kind of copy and paste a lot of these. And honestly, I don't think it would, like, harm the flow of the album at all. It would stay kind of just about the same. Like, in terms of, like, how the guitars are even played, like, it's almost the same kind of, like, picking style in every song. The riffs are very similar and they're generally arranged in a similar pattern. And this album has a drum machine, and, well, drum machines I still think are a little bit limited. This one's especially limited.
Yeah.
There's some issues with the drum machine here.
There are a lot of times, and one song that I'm going to point out, Haunting Gale, the drum fills and transitions are rough. Like, really rough. There are a lot of times where it sounds like they're either coming in too late or too early, and they don't, like, mesh up right off the bat. It's kind of like you're jamming and you're like, wait a minute, that's not right, and you got to wait till it catches up. And that happens actually fairly frequently on the record. That's just a song I can call out.
Yeah, actually, I picked it up on Quarter Sun Remains. Like, when the blasts come in, I feel like the riffs are kind of behind the blast, and it throws off the rhythm. And then there are points in transition where, the drum machine comes in on an off beat, and I feel like it kind of struggles a little bit to get back on the beat. And Haunting Gale in particular, that one just has a flat-out bad fill.
Yeah.
bad fucking robot fill. It's like when they were looking for, like, you know, the drum program for this, they spied the name LarsBot 5000, like, yeah, no, let's just try this one out. What's the worst that can happen? Well, it can't play drums. That's, you know, a feature of Lars now, and I imagine the robot version of Lars. Now, I know drum machines can be, like, very creative. It depends on how you program them, but I feel like there's just, like, moments on here where, like, that was just not paid attention to. Because there are just a lot of, like, jarring transitions where the rhythm feels off. Like, the drum machine sounds fine.
Yeah.
You know, but, like, you know, if you're a very groove-centric band, which this band 100% is, it kind of throws it off. Because, I mean, this is designed to headbang. Like, this is just headbang and chug, and that's fun. But when you got some issues with it like that, that kind of throws it off. And with that, that kind of makes you put the microscope on it a little bit more, and you start to realize there are some other issues on here. And one of my issues on here was atmosphere, because it's not spread out across the entire album. It is condensed into 2 fucking parts that really, really got annoying. Entombed and Chrysalis. I like the first 4 minutes and 30 seconds of that song.
Me too.
The rest of it is just flies and noise and synths. It was like you got abducted by a fucking race of alien flies that all had Moog synthesizers. And it sucks because the first part of that song is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I really dug that one. Again, it's a little bit slower, a little bit more brooding. I got the doomy elements. I was like, okay, this kind of opens it up a little bit. And then just that at the end. That moment and the kind of needless ambient track on here, Gloaming Corporeal Form. It's just an ambient track. It sounds like it was recorded inside of a haunted airplane hangar filled with fucking, you know, again, more synths, and someone's playing a whole bunch of horror movies, and there's like creepy whispers, and it goes on for like 3 minutes.
3.5 minutes, actually. It is a tad too long, and that was a gripe I had as well. Like, why would you waste an entire track doing that when you killed the end of Entombed and Chrysalis with a 4-minute long sample as well? Like, what's the point?
And I don't have an issue with, you know, just atmosphere in general. If it was actually spread out across the album, like, use that as like a background noise behind the riffs. I mean, if there's room, because those guitars kind of dominate this thing. But, you know, like, condensing it down to 2 sections on there of just ambient noise, and, you know, one being what I would call a fucking momentum killer. Yeah, that is just, I don't get that. Now, I know we've been ragging on this album, but honestly, like, a big standout in here is the title track. The last track is literally what I think the rest of the album should be. It's slow, it's gloomy. You get droning heavy riffs.
Yep.
There's not enough of that, and this is, you know, again, a deathdoom album. Drone on some fucking riffs.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, kind of a big part of it. Like, let those things ring out. Get slow and plodding. Even the LarsBot 5000 can't fuck up that drum beat.
Yeah, it's heavy as shit. It's got gnarly tremolos in it. It's got some really haunting atmospheric melody going on. The riffs are slow and brooding and dissonant, and it just, again, that is what deathdoom is, and that's what is nailed on this track. It's all the way at the end, but it's there, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed that track.
It does get a little bit more like mid-tempo and chuggy, like, a little bit later on, but it builds to that. Like, you are greeted to everything that might have been promised by the archives here, with them calling this deathdoom. Like, this is the most monotonous song on here, but it's monotonous in a good way, unlike a good chunk of this album. And one thing that I really liked in here is the lead melodies that show up don't feel out of place. They meld with the riffs. Like, this is, you know, honestly, an awesome song that's kind of stuck on an okay, like, just chuggy death metal album. I don't think this is, like, necessarily terrible, but I feel like it's kind of like par-baked. Like, there's a lot of good ideas. There's, like, singular moments in virtually every song that I really liked. Good solid breakdowns, good solid grooves, chunky riffs. Like, they're fun.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they kind of, like, lacked character, and that's the issue. So, you know, you have the foundation here. It just needs to expand more. And honestly, yeah, if you're going to do the slow, doomy stuff, commit to it. Do it. Like, because that last track, absolutely fucking killer. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. it's an okay album. It skims nothing on heaviness. This is fucking blunt force trauma riffing pretty much through and through. It's chuggy. It's mean. I think the production's pretty damn solid. It's just kind of there, though. Mm-hmm. I've listened to a dozen bands kind of do this stuff. And even in meat and potatoes, death metal, there are ways to, inject some character. Throw a fun tag at the end of the riffs or... change around a groove a little bit. But this one kind of, I don't know, it feels just a little messy at points. And again, the drum program, there's some stuff that just feels off on there, mm-hmm. and it throws off the vibe of the songs. The last track, though, that's the template. Honestly, yep. I want to hear more of that from this band because I think they did that song really fucking well. But yeah, if you're a big fan of, again, Fulci... God, man. Mortician?
Yeah.
Fluids, definitely. Stuff like that. Yeah, give it a whirl.
I'm going to go ahead and give this record 2 stars, and I know that sounds horrible, and I don't think this record was awful. They're not reinventing the wheel as far as heavy music goes here, but I wouldn't kick this record out of bed either. It's still heavy and chuggy, and again, you get all those caveman stomps in there. All of these songs are definitely pummeling. Just like Nick said, though, they kind of lack character, and there's nothing really, until you get to the end, the last track is fucking killer, but until you get to the end, there's nothing really overtly different about these songs. It all just kind of meshes together. And heavy is cool, but if it doesn't go anywhere, and you can't tell things apart, and the riffs lack character, it's just heavy for the sake of being heavy. The songs may be a little bit too long for what they're made of as well, again... If it lacks character, there's no reason to elongate a song by another 2 or 3 minutes if you're not going to really do anything with it.
It's an all meat and potatoes buffet. The buffet's 700 feet long.
Right. It's just potatoes and meat, and those are your choices. And at the very end of the buffet, you get a little packet of salt.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, cool.
The ice cream is also meat and potatoes ice cream.
But I also agree that the last track on here is kind of what needs to be ran with more. That song has character, that song has feeling in it. That is deathdoom for sure. And if that's what the band is after, it needs to start there instead of the other 6 songs. And again, interludes are cool, but there's nothing that jumps out about either of these. You can find creepy interludes like this in pretty much any death metal record in the world
you
right
find
now.
That shit at Spirit of Halloween.
Yep.
Just get one of those old cassettes full of Halloween noises.
I'm not saying that this is a horrible record. It's heavy. Again, like I said, I wouldn't kick it out of bed. It's just probably not something that I would necessarily go back to either. Nonetheless, if you're fans of bands like Fluids, Tribal Gaze for sure. There are definitely Tribal Gaze moments going on here. Flesher, Zompantly, stuff like that. You're probably going to want to give this a whirl. Check it out for yourself.
So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're really 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which once we get him out of financially viable enslavement, because he seems like he's getting paid.
Purgatory. It's been the worst 2 months of my life just happened. So once we get out of there, I promise we'll get into members-only live streams and a ton of other shit. This is my first video in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah. Dude, I could have fucking brought up fucking Artex dying, and that would have cheered him up. He's been so bad.
Oh, it's been miserable, you guys. But yeah, outside of those memberships, even if you don't hit that membership button, it's cool because we do non-members only live streams, which are equally as stupid. Sometimes we even have guests. We've got finally discography rankings coming up. We got At the Gates. It's being filmed this coming Wednesday. I don't give a fuck. I'm finally off overtime. Thank whoever at this point. I don't even know who to thank, but I'm finally off overtime, so we're finally going to get back to discography rankings. They seem to have a bunch of other little segments going on, which is pretty cool. Again, in my absence, I'm glad to see the channel has unfolded. Tons of metal stuff all the time. That's what we do here at Thralls of Metal. We do it all for you guys because we appreciate you being here. Even though I can't be here all the time because life is fucking crazy, you guys are here, and we appreciate that. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.